The night sky above Varexis 9 was filled with fire. Red beams crossed the darkness, explosions shook the ground, and broken metal rained over the city. The alien commander, Turok Ven, stood on the command tower, watching his world fall piece by piece. His soldiers ran through smoke, shouting orders, trying to hold the last defensive line. But nothing was working. The enemy was too strong, too fast, and too many. Turok Ven felt the deep vibration of another explosion under his feet. Dust fell from the ceiling. His second officer rushed to him, fear shaking in his voice. "Commander, the shields are down. The enemy landed troops in Sector 5. We cannot push them back." Turok Ven looked at the burning horizon, his eyes reflecting the flames. He knew the truth. Their army was collapsing. Their people were trapped. Their hope was fading. He turned slowly and walked toward the communication console. His hands trembled, not from weakness, but from the weight of decision. For the first time in centuries, the Varexis Empire would have to call for help. The officer hesitated. "Commander, are you sure? If we send a distress call, everyone will know we are losing." "We are not losing," Turok Ven said quietly. "We have already lost. Now we must make sure our people do not." He pressed the signal button. A faint blue light covered the room. A message, short and desperate, was sent into the void of space. It asked for assistance from any friendly force in range. But deep inside, Turok Ven expected nothing. No one comes to save a dying world. Minutes passed like hours. The sky outside grew darker, filled with enemy ships moving closer. Their engines glowed like red eyes hungry for destruction. Turok Ven closed his eyes for a moment, preparing himself for the end. Then the communication console beeped. The officer gasped. "Commander." Someone answered. Turok Ven opened his eyes. "Who?" The officer stared at the screen, confused. "The signal is unfamiliar. Not Varexis. Not any allied species. I cannot identify the pattern." Before they could analyze it, the entire tower shook violently. Alarms screamed. The power flickered. But this time, it wasn't an enemy strike. It was something else. Something bigger. The air around them vibrated like thunder trapped inside metal walls. Outside, the sky tore open. A bright crack of blue light split the darkness. Then, another. And another. Dozens of hyperspace jump signatures appeared above the planet. The enemy fleet paused, confused. Even Turok Ven felt a cold shock in his chest. Ships began to appear out of the jumps. Huge ships. Dark ships. Warships unlike anything Varexis 9 had ever seen. They came one after another, large shadows forming a wall in orbit. Their hulls were covered in strange markings. Their engines burned bright white, not red or green like most species. Their shapes were sharp, angular, built purely for war. Some were the size of small cities. Some carried smaller ships attached under their wings. And they kept arriving, 10, 20, 50, until the sky looked like a field of metal giants. The officer whispered, "Commander, this cannot be right. There are too many. This is not a rescue fleet. This is an armada." Turok Ven felt his body freeze. "Identify them." The computer scanned the ships, sending lines of data across the screen. For a moment, there was nothing but silence. Then the console spoke in a cold mechanical voice. "Species identified, human." The officer stepped back as if touched by fire. "Humans? That cannot be. Humans are myths, stories, soldiers who fight like machines. A species that destroys anything that threatens them." Turok Ven had heard the same stories. Stories of a species that never runs, never surrenders, and never answers distress calls with small help. If they come with everything. He looked at the massive armada forming positions around the planet. For a moment, he could not understand why humans would send so many ships. Then the communication channel opened. A deep human voice filled the room. Calm, confident, terrifying. "This is Admiral Cole of the Terran War Armada. Virexis 9, we received your distress signal." Tarakven forced himself to speak. We requested small support forces. Not this." The human voice responded without emotion. "Humanity does not send small support. When we answer a call for help, we make sure no enemy walks away." The officer stared at Tarakven, unable to speak. Outside, the human armada moved smoothly into battle formation. Their ships aligned like soldiers ready to strike. The enemy fleet tried to reposition, but their movements were slow, messy, uncertain. They did not expect humans. No one ever expects humans. Admiral Cole's voice returned, colder this time. "Stand by, Virexis command. The Terran Armada will handle this." On the main screen, the largest ship in the human fleet opened its lower bays. Rows of glowing weapons extended outward. The engines roared. The air itself seemed to shake. Tarakven felt something he had not felt since the war began. Hope. But it was a strange kind of hope, sharp, dangerous, and wrapped in fear. Because now he understood the truth of the old stories. When humanity comes to save you, they come as your protectors. And your enemies' nightmares. The first human shots began to charge, lighting the sky like a new rising sun. The sky over Virexis 9 was no longer just filled with fire from the enemy, it now burned with the glow of human engines. Hundreds of warships moved with perfect coordination, each one sliding into position like pieces on a chessboard. The aliens watched in awe and fear. They had expected a few small reinforcements, maybe a couple of strike ships. Instead, a full armada had arrived. Tarakven could not take his eyes off the largest human ships. They were massive, dark, and angular, covered in strange symbols that shone in the light of distant stars. Some carried dozens of smaller attack ships, others seemed like floating fortresses, bristling with weapons. Every ship moved with purpose. Every ship moved like it had been alive for centuries, waiting for this moment. The enemy fleet hesitated. They had thought Virexis 9 would be an easy conquest. Now, they faced something they did not understand. Their formations faltered. Orders from their command ships came too late. Confusion spread like wildfire. Tarakven's second officer whispered, They fight differently. Faster. Smarter. Every move they make seems planned, calculated. Not different, Tarakven corrected. Human. He could hear the stories in his own mind, rumors passed between alien soldiers for generations. Humans were said to be unstoppable in war, fearless, and willing to sacrifice everything to protect allies. He had thought them exaggerations. Now, he saw the truth. Admiral Cole's voice came over the comms again. Calm. Commanding. Terrifying. Virexis forces, stay behind our lines. Observe and learn. We handle the front. Tarakven swallowed hard. His soldiers looked at him for instructions, but he had none to give. All he could do was watch. Humanity had taken control, not by force, but by presence. The enemy fleet tried to attack the humans, launching missiles and firing beams. Every strike was met with a calculated response. Some enemy weapons were destroyed before leaving the ships. Others were deflected with invisible shields. The humans fought with a precision the aliens had never seen. One human ship detached from the main armada. It moved like a predator, weaving through enemy fire, striking a command cruiser with devastating beams that cut through armor like paper. The alien soldiers gasped. Even the enemy seemed frozen, unable to react fast enough. Commander, the second officer said, voice shaking. They are unstoppable. Tarakven nodded slowly. He did not feel fear anymore. Not yet. Instead, he felt a strange mix of relief and awe. Watch them carefully, he said. This is how victory looks. Learn from it. On the planet below, civilians peered at the sky from broken buildings. Some fell to their knees, crying. Some could not believe what they saw. The humans were not only defending the planet, they were showing that no enemy could stand against them. The sheer scale of the Armada, the precision of every move, and the calm power radiating from the fleet filled even the most broken hearts with hope. Then, in the midst of battle, a signal came from a human ship. A squadron of smaller fighters dropped from the larger warships, streaking down toward the planet. They moved fast, weaving between enemy fire, landing precisely where the enemy troops were strongest. The aliens watching on the ground could not understand it. The humans seemed everywhere at once. Turokven clenched his fists. He had seen wars before, but never like this. The humans were not just soldiers, they were a storm. And the enemy had no idea how to face it. Admiral Cole's voice returned, steady and unwavering. "Virex's forces, hold your positions. Humanity will clear the skies. You are safe now." The words were simple, but the meaning was clear. For the first time in weeks, Turokven believed it. The humans were not just help, they were salvation. And yet, the thought came to him unbidden: when humans decide to fight, even the strongest enemies crumble. He turned to his second officer and said, "Prepare the troops. Watch, learn, and survive. Humanity has arrived, and nothing will be the same again." Above Virexis 9, the Armada moved like a single living creature. Its engines lit the sky, its weapons shimmered like stars, and the enemy had nowhere to hide. The first lesson was already clear: humans were not just warriors, they were the galaxy's deadliest protectors. And Turokven realized something even more terrifying. This was only the beginning. The enemy fleet had barely recovered from the shock of humanity's arrival when the first strike came. It was not loud. There were no warning sirens. The humans did not announce their attack. They simply moved like predators, precise and unstoppable. From the massive human warships, long, thin weapons extended into space. Energy beams flared silently, cutting through enemy ships with incredible speed. Missiles launched in coordinated waves, each finding its target before the enemy could react. Some enemy vessels disintegrated in seconds, others were torn apart by precise blasts to critical systems. Turokven watched, unable to look away. "This is perfect coordination," he whispered. His second officer's mouth opened and closed, speechless. Even the veteran alien soldiers could not fully grasp what they were seeing. Human fighter squadrons dropped from the carriers like flocks of deadly birds. They weaved through the chaos, dodging beams, striking weak points, and disappearing again into space. Every move seemed calculated to cause maximum damage with minimum risk. The enemy tried to counterattack, firing every weapon they had. But the humans anticipated each move. Deflector shields absorbed blasts, automated countermeasures destroyed incoming missiles, and human ships repositioned themselves before enemy weapons could lock on. It was as if the humans could see the future. Turokven could hear the shouts of his officers, but the words felt distant. His focus was on the battlefield above, where humanity's armada moved as one living entity. Ships aligned and realigned, firing in perfect sequences. Enemy cruisers were torn in half, frigates exploded in blinding flashes, and the alien soldiers on the ground stared in disbelief. Then, from the flagship, a powerful pulse spread out across the battlefield. Enemy ships' engines sputtered and failed. Systems overloaded. Communications cut out. Panic spread through the enemy ranks like wildfire. They had never faced a species that could control the battle so completely. The humans struck again, this time targeting the enemy command ships. They moved swiftly, avoiding heavy fire, using speed and strategy to overwhelm the strongest vessels. One by one, enemy leaders were eliminated, leaving their fleet directionless and terrified. Turokven felt a surge of hope. For the first time since the invasion began, he thought survival might be possible. Humanity had changed everything. Their attack was not just powerful, it was precise, intelligent, and merciless. On the ground, alien civilians cheered cautiously, peeking out from ruined buildings to see the humans in action. Soldiers on the front lines could hardly believe it. Their human allies did not just fight, they dominated. But Tarakven also felt a shadow of fear. Humanity fought like nothing he had ever seen. They were disciplined, fearless, and relentless. They did not tire. They did not hesitate. And they did not forgive. The enemy fleet tried to regroup, but it was too late. Their ships were scattered, their weapons broken, and their morale destroyed. Every attack they launched was met with counterattacks that left them weaker than before. Tarakven realized the truth of the stories he had heard as a child. Humans were not just soldiers. They were strategists, warriors, and survivors all at once. When they fought, they became the unstoppable force of the galaxy. As the sun rose over Verexis 9, the battlefield was a mix of fire and silence. The enemy fleet had been shattered. Human ships hovered in formation, ready for the next move. And for the first time, the aliens understood something important. They were no longer alone. Humanity had arrived. And with them came hope, and a warning: any enemy that stood against them would be destroyed. The enemy fleet was shattered, but it was not finished. Far behind the front lines, hidden behind a moon, a massive shadow moved slowly. Tarakven's sensors barely detected it, and even then, the readings were strange. The alien officers stared at the data in disbelief. "What is that?" the second officer asked. His voice shook. "We never saw it before. It can destroy planets." Tarakven's stomach turned. "A planet killer," he whispered. They held it back, waiting for the right moment. The enemy commander's voice came over the comms, full of hatred and fear. "Destroy their fleet. Protect the weapon. Leave no one alive." Human ships immediately noticed the change in enemy behavior. Admiral Cole's voice cut through the chaos calmly. "Verexis 9 forces, step back. Observe carefully. Humanity will handle this." Tarakven watched in awe as the humans analyzed the enemy weapon. Massive beams of energy were being charged. The moon shifted slightly, revealing the full size of the hidden ship. It was bigger than anything Verexis 9 had ever seen. Its barrels glowed red-hot. The entire planet below was at risk. A human squadron moved into position. Smaller strike ships circled the weapon, scanning, mapping, and calculating. Then, in a display that made alien soldiers hold their breath, the humans attacked, not with brute force but with intelligence. Missiles struck in perfect sequence, disabling shields, overloading systems, and avoiding traps. Energy beams fired at the weapon's weak points. Every move was precise. The humans were risking everything, but they were willing to pay the price to protect Verexis 9. Tarakven felt his heart pound. He had seen wars before, fought enemies before, but he had never seen such calculated bravery. The humans were not reckless, they were clever, daring, and fearless all at once. The enemy fired back. The planet-shattering weapon released a wave of energy that could have wiped out entire cities. Human ships dodged, accelerated, and split into dozens of smaller groups, attacking from multiple directions at once. Every human move seemed impossible, yet perfectly executed. One human destroyer flew dangerously close to the weapon, its hull glinting in the red light of enemy fire. It released a strike drone directly into the weapon's core. The energy pulse from the weapon tried to stop it, but the drone was shielded and precise. A massive explosion rocked the weapon. The enemy faltered. Tarakven could not believe his eyes. The humans were turning what seemed like a hopeless battle into victory. His soldiers on the ground cheered quietly. Civilians peered out from ruined buildings, their fear slowly turning into hope. "Commander," his second officer said, voice trembling, "they are insane, or geniuses. They are risking everything to stop that weapon." Tarakven nodded. "Not insane. Human." The enemy commander's voice cracked with panic. "We cannot hold them. The weapon, it is failing." Admiral Cole's voice came again, calm, almost casual. "Target neutralized. Planet and civilians secure. Enemy forces are next." Turok then realized something terrifying and inspiring at the same time. Humans did not fight like anyone else. They took impossible risks, and yet, they almost always succeeded. They were unpredictable. They were unstoppable. Above Verexis 9, the human armada moved as one, preparing for the next phase. The enemy was shaken, scattered, and terrified. And on the planet below, every alien soldier and civilian felt the truth. Humanity was unlike anything the galaxy had ever faced. Turok then whispered to himself, "We are witnessing legends, and we are alive to see them fight." The enemy fleet had been dealt a devastating blow. But the war was not over. Humanity had shown its power, but the final battles were still to come. And the galaxy was about to learn that when humans fight, nothing, not even the deadliest secret weapon, can stop them. The human fleet had secured the skies, but the battle was far from over. On the surface of Verexis 9, enemy troops still moved through ruined cities, capturing civilians and destroying what remained of the planet's defenses. The aliens watched helplessly. Their weapons were scattered, and their soldiers were exhausted. Then, without warning, the sky above trembled. Massive dropships detached from human carriers and descended toward the planet. Their engines glowed bright white, cutting through the smoke and fire. Alien soldiers and civilians stared in shock. The stories of humans were true. They not only fought in space, they landed and fought on the ground as well. The dropships landed near the largest concentration of enemy troops. Massive doors opened, and humans emerged. They were tall, heavily armored, and moving with precision. Their weapons were strange, powerful, and unlike anything the aliens had seen. But it was not just their firepower that impressed. Every human moved as part of a team, covering each other, advancing carefully but swiftly. Turok then watched from a command tower. His soldiers on the ground followed the humans, amazed. The humans did not simply attack. They protected. Civilians trapped in ruins were guided to safety. Enemy soldiers were neutralized with efficiency and minimal collateral damage. Each human squad seemed unstoppable, yet compassionate. One human leader, a young woman with a calm voice, directed her squad with authority. "Cover that street. Civilians first. Neutralize hostiles, then move." An alien soldier whispered to another, "They care for life. Even while killing the enemy, they protect their allies." Nearby, a young Verexis soldier found himself fighting alongside a human squad. At first, he was afraid. The humans were so strong, so precise, he feared being out of place. But one of the humans smiled briefly and nodded. That simple gesture filled him with courage. He realized that humans did not fight alone. They inspired those around them. Enemy troops tried to regroup, but the humans were everywhere. They moved faster than expected, striking from the skies, the ground, and even hidden alleys. They communicated without words, anticipating each other's moves. Alien soldiers began to understand. Human tactics were not just advanced, they were almost impossible to counter. The humans also helped civilians, carrying injured Verexis soldiers and families to safer zones. Children clung to human arms without fear. Even Turok then, watching from above, felt a rare emotion, pride mixed with awe. These humans were not only warriors, they were protectors, saviors, and teachers. The battle slowly turned. Enemy troops were forced to retreat. The ground, which had seemed lost, was now under human control. Each explosion, each strike, and each rescue mission showed the aliens that humanity fought for more than victory. They fought for life itself. Turok then turned to his second officer. "Learn from them. Study everything they do. Humans fight with power, yes, but also with heart. That is what makes them different." The officer nodded. "I have never seen anything like it. They are not just soldiers, they are legends." As the humans continued their ground assault, clearing streets and rescuing civilians, the alien forces slowly regained hope. They had survived the first wave of destruction. They had seen humans in action, and they knew the truth. When humans fight for you, they leave nothing to chance. They move with purpose, precision, and protection. And for the first time since the invasion began, Verexis 9 did not feel doomed. Humanity was here, and their presence alone was enough to turn the tide. Tarakven whispered quietly, almost to himself. We called for help, and humanity answered. They are more than warriors. They are the shield of this world. The sky above Verexis 9 glowed with human engines and weapons. On the ground, hope was reborn. And the enemy realized, slowly and painfully, that humanity was unlike anything they had ever faced before. The enemy command ship hovered above the planet like a dark, looming mountain. Its weapons were ready, and its forces were still trying to regroup. But humanity had already decided, this war would end now. From orbit, the human armada moved as one. Hundreds of warships descended, forming an impenetrable wall of steel and fire. Missiles streaked toward the enemy, energy beams cut through defenses, and fighter squadrons weaved through space like living arrows. Every move was calculated, every strike precise. Tarakven watched from the command tower, feeling both awe and fear. Even the most experienced Verexis generals could not comprehend the scale and coordination of the human attack. They are unstoppable, he whispered. On the planet's surface, human marines advanced with the alien soldiers alongside them. Civilians were safe for now, but the battle was far from over. Enemy forces tried to resist, firing from buildings, streets, and remaining vehicles. But the humans moved faster than the enemy could track, clearing each area with speed and precision. Admiral Cole's flagship hovered above the command ship, targeting weak points identified by reconnaissance. All units, focus fire on the core. Enemy morale is collapsing. Strike now, he commanded. Suddenly, enemy reinforcements arrived from behind asteroids, trying to flank the humans. The human fleet reacted instantly, repositioning ships and launching counterattacks. Beams tore through the ambushers, and missiles shredded their hulls. The enemy had underestimated human reaction speed, strategy, and coordination. Tarakven saw his soldiers fighting with newfound courage. Humans inspired them, showing that even against impossible odds, victory was possible. Every alien soldier who survived learned from the humans, copying tactics, taking cover, and moving with precision. On the command ship, the enemy commander panicked. They cannot be stopped. Focus all fire. But it was too late. Human strikes hit every critical system simultaneously. The command ship shook violently, hull panels ripped apart, and fires erupted across its surface. Fighters swooped in, disabling escape pods and weapons simultaneously. The enemy fleet was in chaos. Then, human boarding squads dropped onto the command ship itself. They moved silently and swiftly, neutralizing enemy officers with minimal noise, shutting down weapon systems, and planting charges in critical areas. Tarakven could not believe the efficiency. Every strike was coordinated as if rehearsed for years. Finally, the command ship's core was exposed. Explosions ripped through the structure, sending it tumbling into space. Enemy ships either fled or were destroyed in the chaos. The remaining forces scattered, no longer capable of organized resistance. Tarakven exhaled deeply. The battle was over. Humanity had won, not just through power, but through strategy, courage, and unmatched skill. He turned to his second officer. This is why the stories are true. Humans are legends. They fight not for glory, but to protect. And no enemy can survive when they commit. Admiral Cole's voice came over the comms one last time. Calm, steady, and commanding, Verexis 9 is secure. All remaining enemy forces are either neutralized or retreating. Planetary protection complete. Humanity will continue to monitor until full stability is restored. On the ground, alien soldiers cheered. Civilians stepped from hiding, looking up at the sky filled with human ships. The humans had not only won the battle, they had restored hope, courage, and faith in survival. Tarakven felt something he had not felt since the invasion began: relief, pride, gratitude, and a deep understanding that humans were unlike any other species in the galaxy. They did not fight for themselves alone. They fought for those who could not protect themselves. Above Verexis 9, the human armada hovered silently, ready for the next call. And all who witnessed the battle knew one truth: humanity's presence meant not just survival, but legend. The battle was over. Verexis 9 was safe. The enemy was scattered, broken, and in retreat. Smoke still rose from the ruined cities, and fires burned where civilians had once fled. But above all, hope remained. Tarakven stood on the command tower, looking at the human armada as it hovered in formation. Their engines glowed softly in the fading light, weapons retracted, ready but calm. Alien soldiers and civilians alike stared in awe. Humanity had not just fought, they had saved the planet. The humans began helping with recovery. They guided alien forces to rebuild defenses, assisted in evacuating the injured, and even shared medical technology that was far beyond anything Verexis had seen. But it was not just the help that impressed the aliens. It was the philosophy. The humans did not fight for conquest. They did not fight for glory. They fought to protect, to save, to endure. Tarakven's second officer approached him, still shaken. "Commander, why did they send the entire armada? Why not a few ships, a small squad?" Tarakven shook his head slowly. "That is not how humans operate. When humanity answers a call for help, they commit fully. Not partly, not with hesitation. Everything they have, everything they are, they bring to the battle. And when they do, the galaxy listens." The civilians of Verexis 9 began to speak of humans with reverence. Children painted pictures of human soldiers, streets echoed with stories of their courage, and alien soldiers studied human tactics with fascination and respect. Humanity was no longer just a story, they were legends alive. Above the planet, Admiral Cole's voice came once more over the comms. Calm, firm, and filled with authority, mission complete. Verexis 9 is safe. The enemy is defeated. Humanity will continue to monitor until peace is fully restored. Remember, when you call for help, we will answer. Tarakven felt a mix of relief and awe. He realized something that would stay with him forever. Humans were dangerous not because they loved war, but because they loved allies, life, and honor. Their strength came not just from weapons or strategy, but from purpose. For the first time in his long life, Tarakven smiled. The Verexis Empire had survived. Their people were safe. And they had witnessed the power of a species that would forever change the galaxy. As the human armada prepared to depart, the skies of Verexis 9 glowed with their engines, leaving a trail of hope. Soldiers and civilians alike looked up, knowing that if humanity answered a call for help, nothing, not the deadliest fleet, not the fiercest weapon, not even the darkest shadow, could stand in their way. And somewhere in the vastness of space, other species would soon learn the same truth. When humanity fights, they fight for more than victory. They fight for life. They fight for hope. They fight for legends. And the galaxy would never forget.